Yeah, let's just do it. You're
A
on
little hot
vacation.
tour.
Oh my TMI, April. TMI. I'm rolling the stinger. I'm rolling. We need a break. We need a break. Oh, that's hilarious. I am surprised that she went as viral as she went because I saw the clip. I thought it was funny, but apparently she's gone like mega viral. That girl.
I saw people talking about the Haktua girl before I actually saw I had to go search for the original clip because I just saw people talking about it, and I was like, what is this? I felt like I was missing out on a cultural event.
Apparently she has it monetized. She has a hat already. She's been seen with celebrities. I don't know. That's great for her, but I'm surprised that is a video that went that viral because you see a lot of that kind of stuff. Like there's a format online of that exact situation where it's some person interviewing a girl who's usually like college age or younger, talking about like, you know, sexual things on camera. So I've seen those videos before and okay, they're funny and you move on. That one though just took off.
We're currently on vacation at a beach, Beecher and I, celebrating our 10-year anniversary.
Wait, I got it. Yay.
So we like never get away. So this is a rare event without children. But we went to a little beach shop and they had Haktua t-shirts that they were selling. And I can't imagine that girl is getting royalties from that. Like, so people are just like making their own stuff everywhere.
So I live in New Jersey. We have the Jersey Shore. It's very common for these like boardwalk beach shops to make shirts that are culturally relevant and sell them for as much money as possible. So I'm not surprised at all. But yeah, that tracks.
I haven't had a chance to make this video yet, but so you can tell me if it's funny. But
oh boy. Okay.
So there's two versions of it.
I'm ready.
One might be blasphemous. One is not. I'll tell you the one that is not. Okay. It's a youth pastor, right? And the youth pastor's doing his spiel. There's like pads in the background. He's like, everyone's talking about this Haktua girl. But there was only one Haktua that saved a life when Jesus healed the blind man. He just went Haktua. Rubbed it on that thing. Is that blasphemous?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty funny.
Okay,
but I
thought
think
it
would be funnier if you really went all in on the Haktua. So it gets this pad somber moment, and then it's like you just like you say it real intense, like how she says it, and then you go back into your solemn mode.
Yeah, I don't have any of my wigs here, so I couldn't be a dude. I'd have to be a female youth pastor, and I think it would lose its luster.
Now that is blasphemous, April. Okay, that would be a bridge way too far. Yes, please go back to cosplaying as a male youth pastor, please. I mean, keep it safe for the kids. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, happy Friday, everyone. Happy Haktua Friday to you. I don't know. I'm drinking a freshly poured cup of 7-Eleven blueberry coffee, as always.
I am drinking
that is good.
A very basic version of Keurig coffee.
Wow.
From the place we're staying.
Congratulations, April. Are you in an Airbnb? Is that what you're saying?
It's a family. Beecher has family who are letting us use their condo.
Okay, because did you see the story about the Airbnb camera situation happening right now?
I feel like I read a headline, but I didn't read it. Is it creep status?
Yeah, it's major creep status. I'm gonna pull it up. Camera policy problem. Where is it? Let's see. This is a CNN investigation. Found that essentially Airbnbs, like owners, will put hidden cameras in very intimate places and record people. Like it's a thing. I'll pull it up. I got it here. Let me see.
A bunch of creepers.
Here we go. No room for privacy. How Airbnb fails to protect guests from hidden cameras. It was another lawsuit brought by another victim whose fun-filled vacation, or 10-year anniversary vacation, turned into a voyeuristic nightmare. A woman was secretly recorded undressing at a rental property. Her image is stored on the computer of an alleged sexual predator accused of spying on unsuspecting renters for years.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how did they even find out? I guess they found the camera.
Do they have like some screenshots of like the, let's see, here it is. Yeah, like that. Oh. So we can zoom in here a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I would feel so violated. That's so messed up.
Well, no lie, there are times where, because I travel a lot, especially during like the fall and winter for events, and usually I used to get Airbnbs a lot. I have thought, like, I wonder if there's a camera in here, like just somewhere. Not that anyone needs to see me, because look at me. But my point is that, you know, it's like I have thought about that. But also, I will say recently, I have been getting hotels over Airbnbs because Airbnbs are too expensive. Like they don't make any sense for one person to have an Airbnb, even small rooms, because by the time you have your taxes and your cleaning fee, you're almost double what I can get for a hotel. And I don't have to clean up when I'm done. You know, it's just a lot easier. But yeah, I that is the thing. So I'm glad. That's why I asked, do you have an Airbnb or not? Because if you did, you have to go on a search.
Yeah, well, an Airbnb is causing other problems too, with just like a bunch of, you know, wealthy people are going into certain areas of town and just buying a bunch of apartments, turning them into Airbnbs, and then people there's not enough housing for people to have housing, which just gouges prices. So like there's a whole other economic problem that we're seeing with the housing market.
I agree. But I wanted to ask.
Anyway, that's not why we're here.
Well, are you sure? We could do a whole hour on that.
This is our new brand.
How was your 4th of July? Did you have a good 4th? I mean, I felt like personally there was a dualism to me. Well, first off, for those of you who don't know, I play music professionally on the weekends. So 4th of July in New Jersey is a very busy gig week. So I had 4 gigs, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, back to back to back to back. I was tired. But also, part of me was like, I get that this is like a time where you celebrate family, you light off fireworks, which I did. We'll get to that. But also, I feel like instead of like happy 4th of July, I felt like just meh 4th of July or mediocre 4th of July, because everything that's happening right now in like in our current political situation, just it was not that enjoyable for me.
Yeah, same. I mean, honestly, I feel like I kind of treat it as just another day that we have off from work. You know, like it doesn't have the luster that it used to have. I think especially once I read real history and realized, you know what, we haven't really been the good guys a lot of the time. So it's hard to just be like, yay, we I don't know. but I also don't want to be a pooper.
I know.
But so honest, like I was at a big family reunion with my in-laws, and
how'd that
go? It was fine. Thankfully, like we didn't really, I mean, a lot of people were wearing red, white, and blue, and there was like a red, white, and blue cake that was really for someone's birthday, but it was red, white, and blue. Anyway, doesn't matter. But we didn't like talk about the founding fathers or our country or anything like that. So it just felt like a family reunion that just happened to fall on the 4th. So I really I wasn't thinking about like America as our country, and that like we're celebrating our country today. Like I was able to disassociate from that a little bit.
Well, maybe this will be a good time for me to do my repentance, because I do want to repent for something. Yeah, let me get the pad on here.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I told everyone on the show last week that I bought a bunch of fireworks, and I was so excited to light them off. And we did. But our neighbors had like a graduation party, and they also had fireworks. And I have a video of this. I actually recorded a video of the neighbors' fireworks versus our fireworks. I'm not sure how hot this audio is going to be, but we're going to try it anyway. Let me grab my computer screen up here. Here we go. So here we go. Hopefully you all can see this. If you're listening on a podcast, my parents, they live on like the water in New Jersey. And so across the way is another house lighting off fireworks. And you'll see the camera start there. Then you'll see it go to us. Here you go. That's theirs. Oh, there's ours. That's mine. Pretty pathetic.
Oh my God.
Pretty pathetic. Let's just do that one more time.
You didn't buy any of the shooting ones that go up into the sky?
I mean, look at that. They are firing off the rocket's red glare. I mean, they are as patriotic as you can get. And then there's my little toddler level sparklers. It's pathetic.
That feels about the level of patriotism that I feel right now.
Well, and that's why I'm repenting.
I think that's fair.
Because I repent for not being patriotic enough. I repent for not getting the big guns. Now, my dad's very interesting because he is someone who does not like fireworks usually. He doesn't like loud noises, and because of that, neither do I. Like, I wear earplugs all the time for things that I think will be too loud. And my dad was shockingly like, no, next year we have to buy more fireworks and we have to outdo their party. And I'm like, Dad, say no more. Because I didn't want to bring, because don't forget, in New Jersey, those fireworks are not legal, the ones that they were firing off. And my dad is very much a, by the letter kind of guy, which I totally respect. So I didn't want to bring these big monster behemoth fireworks and have a problem. But to hear him say, next year, I said, no problem, I will start saving now. Because they were firing off those things for almost an hour nonstop. So
oh my gosh.
I do repent for not being patriotic enough and for only buying little kid level sprinkler, toddler, whatever, fireworks while my neighbors lit off the real big boys.
I mean, that's a lot. I don't know that you need to repent for that. I think you are the right amount of patriotic considering.
Also, fireworks are expensive. They probably launched like several $1,000s worth of fireworks off that night because it adds up very quickly
into the air. Yeah. Well, now it sounds like a neighbor rivalry has started.
It has.
They don't know though. They're laughing. They're like, look at those pipsqueaks over there.
No. Next year, they have no clue what's coming. They have not the even slightest idea. They're gonna pee their pants when they see how much money I drop on fireworks next year. Mark my words.
Oh my gosh. You run a nonprofit, Tim.
That's right. I do. That's a good point.
I don't think you're making the big bucks.
No, wait, April. Are you telling me you didn't deconstruct and go online to make lots of money like I did? You don't? do you not have a Tesla in your 4-car garage like I do?
Mm-hmm.
You don't?
I have 2 Teslas.
Oh, okay. Whew, close call. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I am rolling in cash doing this job. I don't ever think about groceries. I don't think about budgeting. I just spend all day. That's why I bought. I don't want to brag. That's why I bought $150 worth of fireworks this year. Look at that.
Wow. Big spender.
Splurged. I know, I'm a big spender. So, good point, though. Yeah, maybe I can. No, I'm not going to say that. But we'll see what happens next year. Maybe I'll hit the lottery or something. I'll spend a lot of fireworks.
Yeah.
One thing I want to update people on briefly as we get into the main topic, because there's a lot to get into today, actually. It's a very important week for politics. Everyone in the GOP who's like a far-right conservative fundamentalist is suddenly mad at Trump. We'll explain why. We are going to touch on Project 2025 today just for a minute. More content coming on that. A lot of you want to hear about that, so we'll get into that. But just really quick, before we get to that side of things, there is an update with Robert Morris that I think it's just worth noting. And that is this. You sent me this article, April.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here. I think I have it.
Hurricane.
Yeah. Where is it? Is this it?
Basically, do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, go ahead. Summarize it up.
So essentially, a few months before the news came out about the 12-year-old girl that Robert Morris assaulted when he was starting out in his ministry. So just a few months before that news came out. So I would assume that was like earlier this year. They had settled Gateway Church had settled I think it was a couple of lawsuits, but basically some other lawsuits that dealt with child abuse as well from a different Gateway Church member. Yeah. And from my understanding, they never it was just kind of not talked about, so people didn't know about it. They just settled it quietly.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can Google that.
Just be aware of that. And also, last thing I'll say too is an article did come out from NBC News talking about during, and by the way, if you don't know what's going on with Robert Morris, just go back to our previous couple of YouTube videos. You'll see it all there. We covered the whole story in depth. So I'm not going to recap it for people who are new here. There's just not enough time. But an article came out from NBC talking about how when Cindy Clementshire filed a lawsuit against Robert Morris when he was at Gateway Church, I think in 2001, something like that. The lawyer for, I believe, Robert said to Cindy's lawyer, quote, "It was your client who initiated inappropriate behavior by coming into my client's bedroom and getting in bed with him, which my client should have not allowed to happen." Cindy was 12. Cindy was 12. So we now have a Robert Morris's lawyer blaming Cindy and saying something that, as far as I know, is not true, blaming a 12-year-old for being sexually assaulted by a grown man. So I just, it's just worth noting. We will continue to dive into that story. Maybe we'll cover more of it next week. There's also another story that could be breaking right now of something happening with the Village Church, Matt Chandler's church. It's too early as of this recording for me to go into detail because I haven't verified it yet, but there could be news breaking again that we'll cover next week. So a lot is happening in the church world, and we'll get to it.
A lot of Texas churches,
A lot
too.
of Texas. What is up with Texas, bro? What are they doing?
I know. Josh Howerton.
Yeah, Josh Howerton, right?
He's in Texan. Yeah.
Robert Jeffries, we covered his video of him repelling army people during the... Oh, my goodness. They're out of control.
Yeah, it's these Texas bastards.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely that. April, should I show you the movie trailer that I wanted to show you for the first time? Or should we get right into it's political. It gets us into politics.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
I do want to see it. Yeah, Tim had sent this to me, but I was in a quiet shuttle being shuttled somewhere, and I didn't.
Now listen, I do listen to feedback from people, and some people did say, "Tim, we love you, thank you." I feel heard, but it's hard when you interrupt movie trailers every 30 seconds with your thoughts. Fair.
You
point,
do interrupt
okay?
a little bit often.
I do. No, I do. It's interesting.
You just get excited.
That's true, and also there is like a style of video where people will go through things very, very like. They'll interject every couple seconds to kind of go through it. I have to get better at that, especially for shorter content. If it's a sermon or something within like a couple minutes long, I think it's fair game to kind of pause and go through. But for movie trailers, you're right. You should get the full effect. So I promise for this movie trailer, I will not say a word. I will just give my own facial expressions, but I will not say anything. So this is a real movie trailer coming out. It's not satire. No context.
Okay.
Here you go.
From the backbone of the greatest political movement ever, the Front Row Joes, the foundation of the Trump faith. Who are they?
You had to love the United States of America, and you had to love Mr. Donald Trump and support Mr. Donald Trump's re-election.
And where do they go next? For the first time ever, a behind-the-scenes look into the energy that's changing the world, with Stephen K. Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Donald J. Trump.
They're incredible people. And the Front Row Joes are, in a certain way, I guess they're very successful people.
USA! USA! Friendships I've made over the years as a Front Row Joe, it's probably the best part of it.
Go to frontrowjoes.movie to experience the movement.
The kind of basis for all the rallies. And they've been, there's like dead things.
There you go. There's a documentary coming out.
I don't understand. They're
Trump's
Why do
Front
they
Row
call
Joes.
themselves Front Row Joes?
I think,
I thought it was some kind of joke about Joe Biden initially.
No, from what I gather, they are people who attend every Trump rally pretty much, and they've gotten picked up and noticed by people in the Trump administration, and so now there's a documentary being done. That trailer dropped on Sean Spicer's YouTube channel. So it's a real thing.
Sean Spicer.
Yeah.
There's something about that man that I find endearing. I know that he lied a lot. Do you remember that when he was first the press secretary?
Yes.
And he would get so mad at everyone because you could know he went out there to lie and he was so bad at lying. I think that's why it was endearing. He would turn purple. And remember, he hid in a bush that one time? Oh, that feels like a fever dream.
SNL spoofed him so well. There were some great bits.
I know, Melissa McCarthy. Moose lambs. With their little puppets. Oh, my gosh.
To give the audience some context, Trump's Front Row Joes superfans follow their idol everywhere. This is written by Ulysses. Is that how you say it? I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. I'll just keep going. So from the article, as soon as the arena doors opened for the Donald Trump rally, they pushed to the front row, ignoring reserved signs, and grabbed their spots. Quote, "We got perfect seats. Trump's going to look right at us," beamed Scott Newth, 57, sporting a red, white, and blue jersey labeled Front Row Joes. "He and a few others here are among a group of the former president's most diehard fans. This is Newth's 43rd event. They will need a bulldozer to get me out," he said with a laugh, more than 2 hours before Trump's speech was scheduled to start in Richmond, the capital of Virginia. So it's pretty much a documentary about Trump's superfans.
They're groupies.
Could you imagine if Joe Biden had someone produce a documentary called Front Row Joes regarding
well,
people
for him
who are
it would be
sycophants
front row Donalds.
What do you think any Democratic person or progressive would be like? Wow, what a great documentary! We love the Front Row Joes. We'd be laughing at these people for what are you doing?
That's a lot of money to spend to hear an older man ramble.
I completely agree.
But
I think it just goes to demonstrate this cult of personality that Trump has really created, where the world of Trump is totally centered around the sycophantic nature. The sycophantic nature of these people who literally worship him. I mean, we've covered this many times. There are books written about Trump being a new messiah, the golden Trump figure at CPAC. It's very different than what you see happening in the Democratic spaces regarding Joe Biden, especially right now. Right now, Democrats are half of them are like, Joe Biden needs to go. Another half are like, that's a deep state operative thing. You're trying to ruin the election. And they're just fighting over this stuff. They're just going back and forth. And we covered that a couple episodes ago. I did a monologue giving my thoughts on the debate and stuff. But it's a very different atmosphere and different attitude towards Joe Biden than the world that surrounds Trump. It's very interesting to observe.
Yeah, well, because the Republican Party, for the most part now, is pretty much become centered around Trump. Trump is not centered around the Republican Party and their platform, which we'll get into. But it's just now morphed around Trump. Where Democrats, they don't have a central leader and they're not unified.
No.
I do think the Republicans in general, well, now there's a little trouble in paradise, but generally speaking, Republicans are more unified on their goals than Democrats.
Yes. No, there is, this is actually interesting, and it's worth highlighting today. There is some trouble in paradise because the GOP updated their policy platform for the first time, I think, in several years now. And it's a 16-page document.
I think they it in 2020. So I think the last time was 2016.
And Trump, from what I understand, had a pretty heavy hand in shaping this, okay? And we're going to go through it because there are some surprising things left out, and there's also some surprising things included. So I do want to go through that with you, April, because we read through the document, we highlighted some stuff that I want to break down for the audience so they understand exactly where the GOP stands on some pretty key issues right now. Before we do that, maybe briefly, do you want to give people a quick crash course on Project 2025, or do you want me to do it?
Sure. I'll attempt to do a crash course, and you can fill in the blanks. Project 2025 it's with the Heritage Foundation, I believe.
Yeah, the Heritage Foundation is they're the people spearheading the move. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's been around for a while. I mean, I know people have been talking about it for several months, but it's only recently become really mainstream.
Yes.
In the mainstream media where people are actually talking about it. But basically, it's the plan for what is going to happen if Trump is reelected. It's the conservative plan at a federal and local level, their plan to basically make America super conservative and Christian.
That's right.
And I think the scariest part, well, a lot of it is scary. So an overview, which there's nothing necessarily new in this that isn't already part of Christian nationalism, that hasn't been part of it for years and years and years, but it's all in one place, and it's a very detailed plan on what they're going to do.
That's right.
So it deals with, declaring marriage between one man and one woman, so they would overrule or overturn gay marriage. They would completely ban abortion. They would even ban contraception. They would I'm trying to think of what the other big players are.
Well, they want to abolish the Department of Education.
Yep. Yeah, and they want to put like influence education with Christian education, and then really strict immigration policies in there, and deporting lots of people. But honestly, the scariest thing I think in there, because the other stuff is also scary, but it's not new. The scary new thing in there is about the employees in Schedule F.
Yes.
And that you have several thousands of federal government employees, and only a percentage of those are partisan, that they change with the administration. So Trump, when he was in the White House, when he was president, kept running into problems where he would ask someone to do something and they would say, no, we can't do that. That's illegal, or that's not protocol. And they would do their job. And Trump tried to fire them, couldn't, because they're a protected class, because they were not a partisan job. These are people that have been in the White House or in DC working this job for, years and years and years, decades. They passed through administration. Like, they are there to make the government run.
The term is called a career civil servant. That's how you kind of think about them.
Okay. Yes. And so basically Trump actually, I think he did an executive order shortly before he left office that switched the classification so that those people would be reclassified as partisan jobs, or just reclassified to where he could fire them.
Yep.
But Joe Biden won, and so he immediately undid that executive order, and so it's back to normal. But basically in Project 2025, that's like one of the first things that's going to change, is that they're going to reclassify a good chunk of those jobs. And so Trump will be surrounded by basically whoever he wants, who's loyal, because he values loyalty over anything. So you're going to have people suddenly that are going to do whatever Trump asks, whether it's protocol or whether it's legal or not. And now, because of the Supreme Court ruling, Trump would have immunity if it's an official act. So that, to me, that's the really, really scary thing, because that's just getting rid of checks and balances.
Yeah, no, correct. Now, I am reading an article that on April 4th, the Office of Personnel Management issued the final version of its regulations meant to safeguard the civil service from the return of a Trump-era policy that sought to convert most federal employees to at-will workers, so that people are aware of this and doing what they can. But yes, the biggest thing in not biggest, but one of the big things in Project 2025, and by the way, you can read the whole, it's called the Leadership Mandate. You can read the whole PDF. It's free. It's 900 pages. Okay, so this is not like a few pages that are just high-level overview statements. Yeah. It's very detailed, and that's exactly right. Essentially, they want to fire or reclassify 50,000 civil servant jobs to be at the will of the president, so meaning the Trump could fire whoever he wants and hire whoever he wants based on political partisanship and loyalty, instead of actually being able to do the job that they're supposed to be doing. That would include things. Yeah. That would include positions at the Department of Education. They want to abolish the FBI. This is real. You can look into it. They want to. Same thing.
They want to ban African American studies and gender studies at all levels.
Yes. They want to wage war on woke. Essentially, is what they want to do. I mean, and again, this is. I actually had one of our researchers go through a lot of it, and they gave me like a whole kind of just cliff notes version of what they want to do. And one of the things is, to your point, I have it right here. I had it right here. Where is it? This is from page 13 through 16 from the Blessings of Liberty, Mandate for Leadership. Quote, but the next conservative president should be proud, not ashamed of Americans' unique culture of social equality and ordered liberty. After all, the countries where Marxist elites have won political and economic power are all weaker, poorer, and less free for it. The United States remains the most innovative and upwardly mobile society in the world. That's not true. Government should stop trying to substitute its own preferences for those of the people, and the next conservative president should champion the dynamic genius of free enterprise against the grim miseries of elite-directed socialism. Now, the ironic part is that this plan would actually only consolidate more power in the federal government, giving Trump less and less red tape to essentially exact his will on civil servants and other departments. So even though the language that they use is about free markets, they actually are trying to consolidate power in the government for themselves, getting rid of any kind of dissent or political dissent and making it easier for Trump and the people who he would elect to these positions to do what they wanted to do, which the person behind this, the main person behind this. In fact, April, what if I just find the clip? I'm going to find the clip. I want everyone to hear what he had to say. I can always trim this part out if we run too long, but I think his name is Kevin Roberts. Yeah, that's him. Here's what he said. It's so key to understand how these people are thinking about this stuff. Give me a second. Let me try and find the video. I should have had this ahead of time, but it kind of came to me in the moment, so I want to.
That's fine. It came to you in the moment.
Yes,
you got to go where the spirit leads.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I can find it on Twitter. Everything's on Twitter. It honestly is shocking. It's shocking. And yes, to your point, they absolutely do want to get rid of DEI initiatives. They want to bring back true American history, which is all code for revisionist history, etc. So, okay, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, this is a shorter clip. There's a longer one too. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Okay, here we go. All right, let me pull up my screen here. Thanks, friends, for being patient with me. There's one person behind the screen pulling all the levers, me. And so I got to make it
pull the lever, Kronk.
All right, here we go. This is Kevin Roberts, he's the Heritage Foundation president. He's behind Project 2025.
And in spite of all of the... Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of all this nonsense from the left, we are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday. And in spite of all of the injustice, which, of course, friends and audience of this show, of our friend Steve know.
Sorry, I am going to interrupt here. I have to, for clarity. When he says what happened yesterday, he's talking about the Supreme Court ruling that Trump will have some immunity based on anything that was considered an official action related to January 6th. So he's celebrating that ruling.
Going to prevail. Number two, to the point of the clips and of course your preview of the fact that I am an early American historian and love the Constitution, that Supreme Court ruling yesterday on immunity is vital. And it's vital for a lot of reasons, but I would go to Federalist number 70 if people in the audience are looking for something to read over Independence Day weekend, in addition to rereading the Declaration of Independence. Read Hamilton's number 70, because there, along with some other essays, he talks about the importance of a vigorous executive. You know, former congressman, the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave Bratt, any president, put politics off to the side, any president having to second guess, triple guess every decision they're making in their official capacity? You couldn't have the republic that you just described. But number three, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Oof. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's
that
the person
damning.
behind Project 2025. I should also mention there are about 100 other conservative think tanks, organizations, academies behind this, including Turning Point USA. So this is a pretty big freaking deal, and that's why folks are freaking out about it. I also want to add that we really could spend a whole hour responding to this guy and what he said about so many different things. Saying that it will be a bloodless revolution if the left allows it means as long as no one dissents and gives us friction, there will be no bloodshed. But it's obviously a threat of violence if people get in their way. That should terrify us. That should absolutely freak us out. And this is what is happening right now with the minds and the brains behind Project 2025. They see it as their second American Revolution. They see it as a way to take back the country from the evil Marxists and communists that are the left. I mean, they see this not through a world of how do we work together for the common good, but they see the world through the lens of the enemies are these liberals, and they have to be destroyed and eradicated so we have no checks and balances. And to be very clear, last thing I'll say, I'll give it back to you. The idea that the Supreme Court needed to rule on immunity is ridiculous. No president has ever come within a mile of actually having their decisions being called into question regarding them being criminal or not. But because Trump has done some legitimately criminal things while in office, now they're celebrating this ruling that would just give Trump more and more power. What a far cry from the talk radio I grew up on that always decried a centralized government, that always decried one person having too much power with no checks and balances. I mean, it is maddening to hear them talk like this when I know for a fact I grew up listening to Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and so on, and this was not their position. But because their guy might get this power, suddenly now, well, we need the executive branch to do what it needs to do completely unfettered. It's so obviously hypocritical, but people buy it. People believe it. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's the party. They're the party of freedom, supposedly, but they are actively trying to take freedoms away from people, and are actively taking freedoms away from people, and imposing religion, like in Oklahoma and Louisiana, where they're now, trying to get the 10 Commandments or a requirement to teach the Bible in Oklahoma, which obviously is going to go to, a court. People are going to, sue the crap out of that. But that's what they want. That's not freedom of thought. That's not even freedom of religion. That is pushing their narrow idea of what Christianity is, which is not actually the teachings of Jesus. It is just a theocracy, and it's authoritarian. And, it's so easy to see from this side. But I also used to believe all of that. And in my head, I found a way to justify that, like, no, we're just helping people follow, we're helping people not sin, and then they'll be more likely to be righteous and be saved and go to heaven. That was my reasoning anyway.
I hear you on that, because I was very much in the same position that you were. But can we also admit that you and I were also very young? Like, we were in our teens and maybe late teens, maybe
in
early 20s. But then we kind of woke up because we just applied the teachings of Jesus to what we saw and thought it didn't make sense. And I think what's frustrating to me is it's exhausting being gaslit by people who use Christian language, insisting that these positions that they're taking are somehow Christian or biblical, or somehow in line with the teachings of Jesus, when all you have to do is read the teachings of Jesus to see that they're not. And then those people tell you that you don't take the Bible seriously because you're a Marxist. Like, there's actually no substance here. None. The actual foundation is not, at least most of the Bible. I mean, there's some parts maybe you can argue from, but it's obviously not about doing the will of the Father, as Jesus says, in Matthew 7. It's about taking over the country, and the Bible, or the term, quote, biblical worldview, is simply a vehicle to wield political power to essentially preserve their own self-interests, right? That's what this is. And I'm exhausted with that, because Jesus did not preserve his own self-interest. Jesus gave his self-interest and his self-preservation away for the sake of the other. And it makes me very angry, and makes me very infuriated to see people use the language of Jesus in the Bible and made up terms like Judeo-Christian worldview, which is, by the way, an oxymoron. Yeah. Jewish thought and Christian thought do not agree on a lot. That's a made-up term from the late 1920s, maybe early 18th century. It's new, is my point. And they get away with it. Like, somehow these are just timeless truths when they're obviously not.
Yeah, I think there's really two types of white evangelical or Christian nationalists today. I think you have the people that are know they're hypocritical. They are aware, but they're okay with it because they're willing to look the other way on some things because of the power that they get, because they want to enforce their will on the nation. And I think those people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I think you have people that just have a really bad case of cognitive dissonance. The foundation of their faith is cognitive dissonance, and they are living in a constant, they honestly can't think too hard on what they're doing because otherwise it would unravel. And so they have to dance around facts. That's why they say fake news. That's fake news. That fact is a threat to my belief system, so that's just fake news.
Yes.
You know, like that answer in Genesis.
Oh my gosh.
Tweet, which we'll get to later,
to that.
But like
and,
that stuff.
And also like this ridiculous quote from Josh Hawley that we're about to play. Josh Hawley is a senator. He was speaking at the National Conservatism Conference, I guess, which, by the way, there's a whole other episode of details in this because of what happened after, which, again, we'll get into a little bit later on. But let me just play this from Josh Hawley so you can hear the blatant mistruths and lies that they say confidently to a round of applause. Here we go.
Some will say now that I am calling America a Christian nation. And so I am. And some will say that I am advocating Christian nationalism, and so I do.
Wow. In case you audience folks out there do not know, America was not in any way, shape, or form founded as a Christian nation. If you want a good book on this, Andrew Seidel's book, The Founding Myth, goes through this piece by piece. It goes through he's an actual constitutional lawyer, actually knows his stuff. We are not a Christian nation legally. Our Constitution is intentionally secular. It does not mention God. It doesn't mention the Bible. It doesn't mention Judeo-Christian principles. It doesn't mention a biblical worldview. All it says about religion is that there's to be a separation between the state and the church. And the way they do this is they say that Congress shall not make any laws respecting or disparaging, essentially, someone's religious freedom. Okay? And again, this is a good example of how I'm exhausted, and it's infuriating to watch people like Josh Hawley, a sitting senator, say something that we can factually verify. Like, we can actually look at the documents and say, actually, Josh, that's not true. Our Constitution, which is what governs us, has no mention of America being a Christian country. And he goes, well, no, you're just wrong. Like, wow.
I think it's also important to note that under God was not added into the Pledge of Allegiance until the 1950s. And in God we trust was not the official motto on our money also until the 1950s. And the White House prayer breakfast, or is it White House, whatever the prayer breakfast is.
Yeah, the annual prayer breakfast.
The annual prayer breakfast also was not a thing until the 1950s. And that all was because of a lot of influence from Billy Graham, Dwight Eisenhower, and it was all an attempt to basically fight communism in the Cold War, because they were like, oh, communism is this godless state. How can we as Americans fight communism? We will be the state that worships God. And that's why they added God in there. It was all to fight off communism.
There's a great book by historian Kevin M. Cruz called One Nation Under God that documents this whole thing, and also how corporate America helped shape this idea that we're a Christian nation. I cannot emphasize it enough. This notion that we're a Christian nation is a recent American myth that has been co-opted by Christian nationalists and by the right wing, especially the far right, to make claims that are just untrue. And by the way, even if it was true, if we were founded as a Christian nation, then we missed the mark immediately by, I don't know, embracing race-based chattel slavery, or by not giving women the same rights as men. I mean, it's to even, like, what are we actually talking about when we say we were founded as a Christian nation? In what sense? In what sense? In what sense, besides virtue signaling with words that says we're a Christian nation, what were the actions behind that, right? So this whole thing, again, once you examine it a few inches below the surface, it just falls apart. And of course, the last statement that Josh makes, I embrace Christian nationalism, just demonstrates the complete shift from people like Josh, which this is completely true, decrying terms like Christian nationalism. No, I'm not a Christian nationalist, it's bad. To the encroachment of, well, I had no comment, to now I fully embrace it. And I again, April, you and I have been doing this for a few years now online. I've been tracking this since really 2017, 2018. There's been a massive shift over the past 5 or 6 years from people like Josh decrying the term, saying, no, we're not Christian nationalists, to now a full embrace of, no, we are Christian nationalists. We have to take back America for God. So it's telling, but it's where we're at right now in America.
Yeah. No, it's been an interesting shift for sure, because a lot of these people used to deny that they were Christian nationalists. They were like, no, we're just good Christians. And now they're like, okay, sure, we are. What about it?
Right. 100%.
Just owning it.
Well, should we then get to the GOP party platform and kind of go through it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I have it right here. Boop, boop.
So
boop.
Also, I don't know.
I
think maybe, hold on. Before we do that, I think it's important
back to Josh
to note that Trump is now distancing himself from Project 2025.
Thank you. Yes.
Because I actually think, my personal opinion, I think one reason that they released the Republican or the GOP platform when they did was another way to try to distance himself from Project 2025. Of like, no, look, that's not our plan. This is our plan, which there is some overlap, but okay, yeah. So Donald Trump on July 5th, I'll just read this. He posted on his Truth Social, I know nothing about Project 2025. I'm just kidding. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Which is interesting. He has no idea who is behind it and knows nothing about it, but he disagrees with some of the things.
Right. But he knows nothing. He's never even heard of this. No,
I know nothing about
idea. Not the slightest idea.
But some of it's abysmal.
Does it matter that these are some of the people working on Project 2025? I'm showing a screen from MSNBC of 10 former Trump officials who are working on this plan as documented by MSNBC. Does that matter at all? No, it doesn't. What matters
one
to
of
Trump
them
is
is
that
Ben
he
Carson.
Himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's called Ben Carson there.
I know the audience is smart enough to realize this, but I'm going to say it anyway. First off, I'm not sure why anyone. Well, I know why Trump sycophants trust Trump, but anyone who can actually who actually cares about fact checking and verifying things, there's no reason to trust a word that Trump says. Not only that, obviously, April, to your point, he exposes that he's lying because he has no idea who's behind it, but he also disagrees with some of the things that they're saying. But also, the reason why I know this statement is such bullshit is because Trump speaks and works with people like Charlie Kirk all the time. When Trump was found guilty of being a convicted felon on 34 counts, the first thing he did, his first public appearance, was with Charlie Kirk at Dream City Church in Arizona. Turning Point USA, which is Charlie Kirk's thing, is a huge proponent of Project 2025. Charlie brags that he has President Trump's number on speed dial, and Trump picks up on the first ring. You're telling me that Turning Point USA, which is all in behind Trump and all in behind Project 2025, somehow has never talked to Trump about this? Like, Trump really has no idea? And the last thing I'll say, this just shows, like, do they really think we're that stupid? Project 2025 has been in the works since Trump left office. There are over 100 conservative organizations all in. It's the leadership mandate, 900 pages long, which means it took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to make it, for the next conservative president, which they all knew would be Trump if he got elected. You're telling me that Trump goes, sorry guys, I have no clue what you're talking about. All of that work is for nothing. Sorry. I mean, I know you spent thousands of hours and countless days crafting this 900-page document, but I had nothing to do with it. I have not even the slightest whiff of what you're talking about. Are you kidding me? Why would they do this then? Why would they make a 900-page mandate for leadership? Why would they make a 180-day playbook for the president to follow step by step if they didn't know that Trump would be enacting these policies on day one? If that's true, that's the biggest waste of time, money, and resources in the history of the country, to spend 4.5 years and tens of millions of dollars for your guy to say, I have no idea about Project 2025.
I also just want to point out too, for those, like, for people who read that about Trump and think, oh, okay, maybe we can breathe a little bit. Trump's not going to enact Project 2025. I just want to say that this is according to the Associated Press. Like, on the Schedule F reclassifying things, it says, Trump at the end of his term, so when he was president, sought to reclassify thousands of the more than 2 million federal employees, stripping them of job protections and making them at-will employees under a new classification known as Schedule F. Biden revoked that order, but Trump says that he will revive it if he wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like the first thing of Project 2025.
It is the cornerstone pillar.
Right. And that's and Trump has already said, yes, I'm doing that.
Yes.
So
because
the idea that he knows nothing about it, and that's like just because he says I know nothing about Project 2025, we should not breathe easy. Project 2025 is still very much on the horizon. But I will say they do. But I do think it'll be interesting because, and you and I have talked about this, Trump's not a believer. Trump is not a Christian nationalist.
No, April. He's a baby Christian. James Dobson told us so. He's a baby. He's still growing.
Right. But like, okay, Trump is in it for himself. Like, I would say he's a textbook narcissist. You know, like Trump is in it for the power Trump can get. Trump
100%.
I don't think Trump really cares about any specific policy. He just wants to have power, and he's going with the flow, and he's choosing the policies that will get the most people to vote for him, which is how he's kind of co-opted with Christian nationalism and conservatism. But even just think of like how easy it would be. Like, I just don't think he's going to be true to Trump, and he's going to be Trump, and he's not going to bend to the will of anybody. Just in the fact that anytime someone asks him a faith question, he butchers the crap out of it. He doesn't answer the question. Like he could easily. Like, this is the thing that's mind-boggling because
tell me, rant, April, rant. I love it.
He has said, it was either Iowa or Idaho. It was one of the I states. Early on in like 2015, they asked him, "Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?" He freaking said no.
Right.
He said no.
Because
he's like, I've never needed to do that.
Right.
And people like they're like, okay, you know, maybe he's a baby Christian. Somehow still duped them into thinking that he is a Christian, but he has never once actually answered the question. With 2 Corinthians, how, like, anytime he's asked about God, he always turns it into how great he is. And, like, he does not answer faith questions. Anyone who with any objective thought can see through this man that he knows nothing about Christianity or the Bible. Like, that's not who he is. And that's fine, whatever. But that's not who he is. So he's not going to bend to the will of these Project 2025 people. And I am wondering if he's now seeing, he came on the scene where he used white evangelicals to come into power.
Right.
But now it almost seems like white evangelicals and Christian nationalists are now trying to use Trump to get their way with Project 2025. And Trump is not one to be told what to do and to bend to the will. So I almost wonder if there's a, you know, I don't know. I just think it'll be interesting. I think one reason why they released the GOP plan is to put some distance between Project 2025 and Trump to be like, no, I do what I want. I'm not part of that. Which obviously politically, because it's getting a lot of hate and attention too, he's wanting to distance himself.
Right.
But honestly, he's never even been, he was a pro-choice Democrat for most of his life. So he doesn't actually care about abortion. He doesn't care about gay marriage. Literally, I think it was in 2016, 2017, his MAGA store sold Pride MAGA merch. Like,
he
doesn't care. He's not a Christian nationalist.
It's like watching 2 charlatans take advantage of each other.
Right. You know, like, I think that's what we're seeing.
Wow. Oh, completely.
So anyway.
I think there's definitely a level to that. I mean, from what I've been told and from what I've heard, if I remember correctly, there have been times that Trump has said, like, behind the scenes, like, these people are weird, meaning like the charismatic Christians, etc. He doesn't buy having hands laid on him. He doesn't buy the anointing from God rhetoric. He doesn't care. But will he use it? Will he leverage their desires to get the power he wants and then give them morsels? Like, for example, overturning Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
That's huge. The fact that he did that will always cement in the minds of these people that Trump is on their side. Until we get to this GOP party platform that I think we should go through, because there are some things noticeably missing and also some things that I think are maybe even scarier than ever. So we got a few minutes left. You want to kind of go through it?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Let's see here. Bing, bing. So this is it's 16 pages long. April and I highlighted some things that we want to kind of give to you, the audience, and kind of break down. First, the dedication right away should raise some alarm bells. Dedication.
To the forgotten men and women of America.
What they don't mean here are the BIPOC community, the AAPI community, folks who are disabled. They don't mean that. This is
not
code.
Marginalized people.
Not marginalized. This is playing on like the idea that we as white Americans, especially the white working poor and middle class, are being forgotten. I do want to say one thing about this. There is absolutely something to say that the middle class and the poor, regardless of race or ethnicity or religion, are being forgotten. I mean, we have tracked how mega corporations, the billionaire class, is soaking up wealth out of the American economy like a vacuum, leaving people in the middle class and lower class with less and less wages and less mobile equity to be able to move around and do what they want. So I understand the sentiment, but in the context of the GOP party platform, as we're going to find out, it has nothing to do with that and everything to do with just utilizing this language to dog whistle to people who are like them, the true patriots, trying to save America from the evil demonic left. Okay, here we go. We're not going to go through the whole thing. It's 16 pages. I have some highlights. Here's the preamble. April, do you want to read this? You want me to read it?
You want me to read the highlight?
Highlight, please. Yes.
Sure. Our nation's history is filled with the stories of brave men and women who gave everything they had to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. Generations of American patriots have summoned the American spirit of strength, determination, and love of country to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The American people have proven time and again that we can overcome any obstacle and any force pitted against us.
What is missing from this mythological history? No talk about the civil rights movement. No talk about our nation's history of slavery. No talk about the Civil War. I mean, they could have made it seem in this preamble like, no, we're the party who fought against slavery, right? But no, it's just that's not here. It's just stories of brave men and women who gave everything they had to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. Don't even acknowledge the fact that slaves built so much of America that we stand on today, because that would be woke or something, or DEI. So right away, it's a very mythological reality of the history of America in my mind.
Right. It's this fantastical idea that just America has always been the good guy.
Always. Right.
The good guys came together to build a good nation.
Yes. Now, next paragraph, I can read this. And to be clear, friends who are listening to the podcast, we are skipping a lot of paragraphs because we don't have time to go through every single thing. So these are just some highlights that we picked up. Okay, but now we are a nation in all caps, serious decline, as if like Trump wrote that line. Our future, our identity, and our very way of life are under threat like never before. Today, we must once again call upon the same American spirit that led us to prevail through every challenge of the past if we're going to lead our nation to a brighter future. Don't know what that means. What are we talking about here?
What is it? What are they under threat of?
Who?
They're not the ones that have the threats of their rights being taken away.
Right. No, not at all. Another part that I thought was very funny. They say, quote, "We will be a nation based on truth, justice, and common sense." I mean, I'm sorry. When your candidate is Donald Trump, you have a lot of audacity to say that truth, justice, and common sense are what your party's platforming on. Truth?
Yeah. Well, his platform is Truth Social.
I guess you're right. My bad. Yeah, that's what they meant.
Yeah.
We will be a nation based on truth, parentheses, social, justice, and common sense. I mean, common sense would tell you that if your own legal team admits in a court of law that there was no election interference that cost you the election, common sense would tell you, okay, the election wasn't stolen. Just saying. That's what common sense would say. You would think. So, yeah. My mind is spinning just reading that.
Many people would say that's not common sense.
Yeah, right.
Many people.
Here's another good line. This is all in the preamble. We must not allow Biden's migrant invasion to alter our country. By the way, let me just say the word invasion is a new word for the GOP on a party level. The fact that they're calling it an invasion is just so reminiscent of the KKK and early white supremacists who use the same rhetoric to disparage immigrants coming to the country. So again, if you know your history, you know this line actually invokes a much deeper legacy of who the country was built for and who it was built to keep out. It must not stand. Under the Trump administration in a Republican Congress, it will be defeated immediately. So they're running high on the migrant invasion, quote unquote, talking point here. Do you want to read this line?
I would love to.
Thank you.
America needs determined Republican leadership at every level of government to address the core threats to our very survival. Our disastrously open border, our weakened economy, crippling restrictions on American energy production, our depleted military, attacks on the American system of justice, and much more. Is that because he was convicted?
I'm pretty sure that's what that means. Also, Joe Biden has given the military record amounts of money. Like our military budget continues to go up under every president. They're all warmongers in that sense, and they all love to feed the American military-industrial complex and the contractors who export arms all over the country. So I don't know what he means by our depleted military. What was the other thing? Oh, our disastrously open border. Just to be very clear, we don't have open borders. We obviously, I've talked to a lot of people in moderate and Democratic spaces, as well as some Republican. We all agree that our border and our immigration policies need immense reform for a lot of reasons. This idea, though, that it's an open border is so ironic, considering that President Biden did have bipartisan support to pass one of the most comprehensive border reform bills in history. That was also one of the most conservative bills in history. And Trump, behind the scenes, spoke with his colleagues to have the bill killed, just so he can run on this policy. So, again, it's not about principle, right? It's about using situations in a way that promotes a narrative that actually isn't the full story or even fully true, and also sabotaging the solutions to that story so that way you can run on it to disparage your opponent.
Because it's not actually about solving the problem. It's about using the problem to exploit your opponent or to, platform yourself.
That's right. Okay, so here's what they did. They outlined 20 statements. They're in all caps, which I just think is so interesting. And this is their party platform, broadly speaking. There's 20 of them. I think we just read all 20. Are you down with that, April?
Sure.
And to kind of give the audience a glimpse of what is most important to the GOP and to Trump in 2024 for this election.
Do we need to yell them since they're in all caps?
Okay.
Seal the border and stop the migrant invasion.
Do you want to read the first 10 and I'll read the bottom 10?
Sure, I'm not going to yell the whole time though. This is long.
But imagine we are yelling. They're all in caps.
Right. It's all caps. So seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. There's that word again.
That's
carry out the largest. Yeah, number 1. 2, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. 3, end inflation and make America affordable again. Okay, how does one just end inflation? That's not a plan.
You wave your magic
wand. That's just a statement. Yeah. Magically end inflation. Okay, 4, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. There's an exclamation point there. It says in the world, comma, by far. I think Trump wrote a lot of this.
For sure.
Okay. Stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. That was number 5. Number 6, large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. Interestingly, we'll get into that because there's a whole Trump's tax plan that he did was permanent tax cuts on the wealthy, but the tax cuts that he gave for regular workers are supposed to go back up. I think next year.
2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, people think that he gave them this big tax cut, but it's going to go back up. Anyway.
Yep.
Anywho, moving on. Number 7, defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. BS on the freedom of religion one.
Oh, totally. That should
Number
be
8.
Christian supremacy.
Yes, Christian supremacy. Exactly. Number 8, prevent World War III. Restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. I don't understand so the interesting thing about the restoring peace situation, Trump has already kind of hinted at kind of giving Ukraine to Russia. That's how he would end it.
Right.
That's just
Great idea.
And not to mention what he said about wanting Netanyahu to finish the job. Like, that's
more peace. Let's continue to mass slaughter Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Peace.
Yeah, that's the opposite of peace. Anyway, moving on. 9, in the weaponization of government against the American people, which is ironic to say. Y'all, this is the party that's literally taking autonomy away from women, taking gender affirming care away from trans people, and wanting to overturn gay marriage. Miss me with that.
I just need to say that so often every accusation is really a confession. Like, keep that in mind. Once you understand that, it just makes so much more sense. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Cut you off there.
Okay, number 10. Stop the migrant crime epidemic, which is kind of back to number 1, but this is number 10. Stop the migrant crime epidemic, demolish the foreign drug cartels, crush gang violence, and lock up violent offenders. Again, crush gang violence. That's not a plan. That's just like Michael Scott being like, I declare bankruptcy. Like, we will end inflation.
100%. Okay, maybe we can pause here for these 10, kind of give our thoughts, and we can keep going. By the way, stop the migrant crime epidemic. There is no epidemic. The Cato Institute revealed that migrants are half as likely to commit violent crimes as their civilian counterparts, especially if, like, compared to like American citizens versus undocumented immigrants. They're half as likely to commit crime. Let's just start with that right away. Number 2, you obviously know what type of migrants they're talking about when they say in the same sentence, demolish the foreign drug cartels. What comes to mind when you think of a drug cartel? Do you think of some people in Germany making meth to ship overseas to America? No. You think about people south of the border. You think about brown-skinned people who are living somewhere in Mexico or somewhere else in the country, in that part of the world, making these drugs, right? Crush gang violence, same imagery, and lock up violent offenders. I mean, it's obvious who they're talking about here. They're talking about brown-skinned people who are not from here. That's what this is all about. Even the fact
that they just started the sentence with migrant crime.
Exactly.
And then,
exactly. Yeah. And they call it a migrant invasion. Again, think about what comes in when you think about that phrase, the migrant invasion. What comes to mind? Do you think about the illegal people coming from Canada? Which that absolutely does happen. Do you think about people from France who are trying to get smuggled in illegally? No. You think about people who, are brown-skinned, who live somewhere south of the border, and who are walking to this country. And some people might even just imagine these like angry men with like machetes trying to kill people in America. Like that is the image that the right-wing media paints. So when people read this, who are GOP supporters, they go, "Yeah, stop those people from coming over here." Because we're being invaded. Yeah. It's wild to me. I mean, it's blatantly racist. I'm not sure how else we can say it. It is openly. There's no more dog whistling. They're saying the quiet part out loud, clearly.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me that we're here. And again, this is what most white evangelicals in the country are going to vote for. They're going to vote for these policies.
And I will say a lot of this overlaps with Project 2025. So the irony of Trump being like, I know nothing about that. That's abysmal. Like, a lot of this is very similar to what is laid out in Project 2025. Also, they're going to completely get rid of like any environmental protections for climate change.
I have it right here, actually. Promise number 3, mandate for leadership, pages 9 through 13. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Quote, open borders activism is a classic example of what the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer called cheap grace. Publicly promoting one's own virtue without risking any personal inconvenience. Indeed, the only direct impact of open borders on pro-open border elites is that the constant flow of illegal immigrants suppresses the wages of their housekeepers, landscapers, and busboys. I mean, it's wild to me. So this is like kind of their whole angle. Again, don't forget, people, that Joe Biden did attempt to pass a bipartisan bill to, solve some of these problems, not all of them, obviously. Yeah. And there's a bigger conversation to have, which we have had before on the podcast, about immigration in general and what causes it. But man, it's just it's wild to me that this is like their number one issue now is stopping the quote migrant invasion. Yeah. Okay. Should we keep going?
Let's do it.
All right, number 11.
More all caps.
Yeah, this is all caps. Just picture someone screaming this at you. 11. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C. Make them safe, clean, and beautiful again. P.S. We debunked this in a previous video. I actually have the thumbnail here so folks can actually watch it. It is... Where is it? This is the episode... Hey, there it is. This one. I went through an Ali Stuckey trailer that she did for an event, and she talks about this, and we debunked all of it. Cities are safer now than they've ever been before in the country, FYI. So this idea that our cities are dangerous and that they're not safe is actually statistically not true. All right, number 12. Strengthen and modernize our military, making it, without question, the strongest and most powerful in the world. Number 13. Keep the U.S. dollars as the world's reserve currency. 14. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. That sounds like big government to me. 15. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations. Number 16. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Number 17.
Can I?
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick. On the pushing critical race theory, that's also a dog whistle.
Completely.
And that, because there is no school, unless it's like an elective, like your senior year of high school, maybe, and you're taking college courses. But like K through 12, there's no curriculum for critical race theory. What they mean by this is actually teaching any type of accurate racial history.
That's right.
Black history, even just like some truths about the Civil War, and just they would call it revisionist history, but really it's just history. You're
100%.
talking about like even like Black Wall Street in Oklahoma.
Yes.
You're talking about stories that are true, but deal with racial undertones that don't make America look good. That's what they mean when they say critical race theory.
Or perhaps you talk about how systemic racism still exists and how there are still disparities among people based on race, right? Oh, you can't talk about that. That's exactly correct. I mean, 100,000%. That is right.
I also want to say it's interesting too, number 14, where they say including no changes to the retirement age. Project 2025 says that they want to raise the retirement age. So that's a difference there.
There's a disparity there. Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Number 16. Cut. Yeah, I think I mentioned that. Well, here's the whole thing. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Don't know what that means. Don't know how you enforce it besides ban a bunch of books that you don't like, which we've seen happen. Bad idea. Number 17. Keep men out of women's sports. Number 18.
Yeah, that's an anti-trans dog whistle.
Definitely. Also, it is so interesting that out of this list of 20 key issues, this is number 17 because it affects about maybe 100 people like in the U.S. It is such a rare situation, and it's been blown. It's been blown up to be this huge thing when it's just not. Okay, number 18.
Right. And
this
it doesn't even take into account like trans men who are forced to play in women's sports.
100%. It is. It's ridiculous. Number 18, deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. Wait, deport? What? So does that mean what you're saying is deport American citizens who are in favor of the Palestinian people of not being slaughtered by the IDF? And protesting on their campus colleges? Where are they going to go?
They're Americans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Don't they have rights?
Here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh
I mean, oh my goodness. Jeez. Number 19, secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. 20, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success.
Again, that is so vague.
Yes.
I declare record levels of success.
Boom. Now, April, there are two very big culture war issues that the right-wing Christian nationalist world loves to talk about that have not been mentioned in these 20 statements. Any idea what they could be?
I think abortion is one.
Yeah. And the other one, gay marriage.
Biblical marriage?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they talked about some of it, with the men out of women's sports and the gender ideology stuff. But as far as the sanctity of marriage, family values, whatever, absent from these 20 statements. I do
think that he mentions the sanctity of marriage later down, further down.
That could be
but
true.
It's still vague.
It's pretty minor. It doesn't say by keeping marriage to be between a man and a woman. I mean, there was a push a couple years ago by folks on the right to add into the Constitution an amendment to define marriage as between one man and one woman. That language is gone. The abortion conversation in these 20 statements, totally not there at all.
Yeah.
And people in the Christian nationalist right-wing world are losing their minds over it. They're losing their minds over it. And we have a few minutes here still to go through. So let's kind of keep going and see how they define some of these things. And then maybe we can pull up a few of those tweets that we found and kind of talk about the rift that is happening between the right-wing Christian nationalist world, who is very strict on abortion and queer rights, and then, of course, Trump. Okay, so they go on to say after those 20 statements, today and together, with love for our country, faith in our people, and trust in God's good grace, we will make America great again. Awesome. And then they go into all of then they kind of break down their table of contents and kind of how they plan to go through some of these things. There is a lot here. I don't want to get too in the weeds just because of for sake of time, but there are a few things that are worth highlighting that I wanted to bring up. April, did you have anything that you really wanted to go into while we have a few minutes here on this policy?
No, you can just go ahead. I mean, I have some screenshots, but I'll see. You might get to them anyway, so just go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, a couple of big things that stood out to me. Number 4, they have here, stop illegal immigration. Republicans will secure the border, deport illegal aliens, and reverse the Democrats' open border policies that have driven up the cost of housing, education, and healthcare for American families. What a weird combination of things. I'm not sure how immigration drives up the cost of education, housing, and healthcare. And also, I just want to point out that, like, to this day, I'm not sure what the actual strategy is from the GOP to actually drive down the cost of housing, education, and healthcare for American families. I thought that was just a very interesting statement. A couple other things I wanted to mention that were really important to me. Let's see. Republicans will use existing federal law to keep foreign, Christian-hating, communist, Marxist, and socialists out of America. Those who join our country must love our country. We will use extreme vetting to ensure that jihadists and jihadist sympathizers are not admitted. That's a real thing in this document.
Yeah, that is a dog whistle to say that they're basically going to ban Muslims from migrating here.
This is like if Charlie Kirk had a chance to write part of the GOP party platform. I mean,
Christian-hating communists.
How do you define that? What does that mean?
And also, like, the way that they just assume that someone who is a Marxist or a socialist or a communist is just automatically a Christian hater, even though those are just socio-political ways of viewing how to run a government.
Right.
It's just a different form of government. Right. It's not inherently evil. You can argue whether they're effective, but it's not inherently anti-God.
Yeah. And let me really trigger some people. Karl Marx, in his book, The Communist Manifesto, makes some good points that we should be thinking about regarding how power dynamics work and who's on top and who's on bottom and how people get affected. So I'm just saying, this God-hating communists. I mean, okay.
It's like we're back in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly. Or we never left it, right? This one is a little outside of our typical scope of like theology and politics, but it's actually a very important piece that I think I need to mention here. They actually have a section on cryptocurrency, and AI. And here's what they say. Republicans will end Democrats' unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown and oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency. We will defend the right to mine Bitcoin and ensure every American has the right to self-custody of their digital assets and transact free from government surveillance and control. Okay, I needed to say something here. This is actually very important. I don't know how many of you understand crypto or are into crypto. I actually know a little bit about it, not a whole lot. I will tell you this, though. I've watched a lot of videos and I've watched a lot of stories. The cryptocurrency world is the wild, wild west, and it's unregulated, and people lose their life's savings by being scammed by people who ensure them that what they're investing in is stable. We just watched the biggest Bitcoin exchange, FTX, go under, costing people billions of dollars. And part of that is because it was unregulated. The idea that Republicans want to keep Bitcoin and cryptocurrency free from government, quote unquote, surveillance and control is crazy to me. It is asinine. It is absolutely asinine. Things like NFTs, cryptocurrencies have become places where sharks prey on people and their life savings. So I just thought that it is crazy to me that you're really going to run on a platform that says, let's keep it unregulated, when it actually harms so many average Americans. I wonder
what the reason is behind
like,
that.
how did this make it in there? You know, like who? Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Trump did. Remember when Trump sold his own NFTs?
Yes, I remember that completely.
Yeah.
And the last one here that I'll mention regarding this topic is AI. They say, regarding artificial intelligence, we will repeal Joe Biden's dangerous executive order that hinders AI innovation and imposes radical left-wing ideas on the development of this technology. In its place, Republicans support AI development rooted in free speech and human flourishing. I don't know what this means. I'm not sure what executive order Joe Biden signed that is, quote unquote, hindering AI innovation, especially considering that AI is taking over everything. Apple just announced it in their new iOS 18 software. Don't know what they're talking about, but I will say AI, like any technology, should absolutely have regulations around it. 1,000%. Like, this stuff can be very dangerous for a lot of people, especially how AI learns, how you train. It's called a training module. How do you train AI over on what kind of content? It gets ethically dicey very quickly, and we need to have parameters around that. So I found those two things very interesting that I think were worth highlighting for me. Let's see what else we got here. You know, they go through the typical stuff. They want housing affordability, accessible higher education. This one's interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead and read it.
I don't want to cut you off. So they say here, to reduce the cost of higher education, Republicans will support the creation of additional, drastically more affordable alternatives to a traditional four-year college degree. This is really interesting to me. I don't know what this means. I do know that Republicans oppose Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program, and that historically, you know, maybe we could say both Democrats and Republicans, I'm not sure, but I know for a fact at least Republicans have not really been in favor of trying to lower or subsidize the cost of four-year college. So I don't know what it means to have an alternative to a traditional four-year college degree. I'm not sure what that means personally.
I don't know if they mean trade schools or, community college.
Yeah.
Again, not a plan, just a sentence.
Right. Which, I mean, by the way, I am in favor of there is, I think, in America a stigma when it comes to the trades sometimes for some people that, oh, you're going to be a carpenter. Like, that's like so beneath you. There's actually, I mean, I worked in the trades a little bit. I'm all about giving students, high schoolers, better access to better options, right? Like, hey, not everyone needs a four-year degree in communications that costs them $100,000. Some of them might want to go into the trade or be an electrician, be a carpenter, whatever. Those are important jobs, and I'm all about making those pipelines more accessible to students. But also, higher education, especially in the academic world, for engineers and for doctors and philosophy, all really impact the state of the nation and how we move forward in terms of advancement and, you know, making America whatever they think is going to make it great again. So I don't know why this like disparaging of the four-year college degree to me. It's just interesting.
Yeah. That is interesting. If you go down, I don't know, what chapter are you on currently?
Chapter 5.
I was going to go down to chapter 8.
Ooh, 8. Okay.
This is where he mentions, if there's, unless there's something you want to talk about on the way down.
Oh, there are a few things in this chapter 7 on schools. This is actually pretty important for people to know about. So
go ahead.
Here's one. Republicans will support schools that focus on excellence in parental rights. We will support ending teacher tenure, adopting merit pay, and allowing various publicly supported educational models. This is such a freaking disaster. I mean, I just, my gosh, like the idea of taking tenure away from public school teachers and adopting merit pay when they're already so underpaid and so underfunded is just crazy to me. And that ties into point number 2 here, which they have labeled universal school choice. Republicans believe families should be empowered to choose the best education for their children. We support universal school choice in every state in America. We will expand 529 education savings accounts and support homeschooling families equally. 2 things on this. Number 1, homeschooling families are supported. You can homeschool your children in every state. I was homeschooled for 9 years. You're allowed to do that. It's supported already. The idea of universal school choice usually means a voucher program. And voucher, for like these private schools, they actually suck up money out of public education and only usually benefit the most wealthy or most privileged in that town or city or state. And it actually disparages low income children from actually getting access to public education that is quality. So I think that overall, this universal school choice idea has very dire consequences regarding how it will help the least of these, so to speak, people who do not have access to these voucher programs or to these private schools, or they're called charter schools, essentially. I just think, again, it's so problematic. So I wanted to mention that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. You want to keep going? There's a lot here.
Yeah. Notice there, number 6, the headline says, knowledge and skills, not CRT and gender indoctrination.
Yeah.
Again.
Republicans will ensure children are taught fundamentals like reading, history, science, and math, not left-wing propaganda. We will defund schools that engage in inappropriate political indoctrination of our children using federal tax dollars. So how do you do that? Do you create a task force from the federal government? Do you create a governmental force that now actually regulates what states can and can't teach in their public schools? That sounds like big government encroaching on states' rights. And also,
it sure does, Tim.
Doesn't it? I mean, am I the only one here thinking about this? And also, schools do teach reading, history, science, and math. Like, that's what they do. And also, if I may, when they say this, do they mean like in Louisiana, where the state legislature just passed mandating the 10 Commandments in all public schools, yet they rank 40th in reading? Like, is that what we want more of? We want more legislatures like that really don't give a crap about students' reading comprehension, but do care about the 10 Commandments being put in public schools? Like, seriously?
Look at number 8, freedom to pray. Okay. Republicans will champion the First Amendment right to pray and read the Bible in school and stand up to those who violate the religious freedoms of American students. You can still read the Bible and pray in school. See you at the poll. See you at the poll is literally still a thing. And you still have, clubs and schools like Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You've got Youth Alive. These are Christian clubs that exist in public schools. Now,
Child
what you're not supposed to do,
5 days,
right? What you're not supposed to do is impose your religion on students. Teachers cannot get up there and be like, "You need to believe that you're going to a literal hell one day." Like, you're not supposed to do that. But an individual student can still pray and read their Bible and even talk about Jesus and do whatever they can witness to people, and that is 100% legal.
Yes. This just shows how disingenuous the GOP actually is, because you're completely right. You can bring your Bible to school. You can read your Bible. You can pray whenever you want. What you cannot do is a teacher in a public school, which is therefore representing the government, cannot impose or cannot privilege one religion over another and lead their students through those prayers. Because in a public society, in a public school system that is pluralistic, you might have a Hindu student, a Muslim student, a Christian student, an atheist student. And those students have constitutional rights to not have the government impose a religion onto them by leading them through Christian prayers or by teaching them from the Bible religiously. Okay? This is very common sense, going back to their own language here. It makes complete sense. Just like how maybe a Christian parent would not want their child being led through a Hindu prayer by a Hindu teacher, right? Because that would violate their freedom of religion or from religion. It makes complete sense. But instead, the GOP says, no, we essentially want to Christianize America. We want to Christianize public school systems, so we all have to assimilate underneath this Judeo-Christian worldview that does not exist. It's mind-blowing to me.
It is mind-blowing. Okay, go down to chapter 8 real quick. Oh, I know we probably need to wrap this up.
It's okay. Can I just read one more? This one's really big. This actually is, okay. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. We have to give people the information behind this, right? Number 9, return education to the states. This is a big deal. This is Project 2025, almost verbatim. Quote, the United States spends more money per pupil on education than any other country in the world, and yet we are at the bottom of every educational list in terms of results. That's pretty true. We are going to close the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and send it back to the states where it belongs. And let's let the states run our educational system as it should be run. Our great teachers, who are so important to the future well-being of our country, will be cherished and protected by the Republican Party so that they can do the job of educating our students that they so dearly want to do. It is our goal to bring education in the United States to the highest level, one that it has never attained before. Don't forget, friends, a few paragraphs up, this same document says that they're going to stop the woke left indoctrination by teachers of students and make them only be able to teach, math and reading, which again, oh,
what happened?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
What happened? I can hear you.
What happened was, instead of hitting decline call, I hit accept call and almost took a call live on the air here. That's what I almost did.
Oh, repent.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I repent. But I'm just saying, like, this is so ridiculous because they don't. The GOP is the world of the groomers are in our schools. Our teachers are indoctrinating our children. Parental rights. But don't worry, guys. In statement number 9, they will cherish and protect teachers, even though they want to get rid of teacher tenure and go back to a merit-based pay. It's just, it makes me nauseous to see the duplicity here, but I digress. Okay, go ahead, April.
I will say there are people in the world that, like, this could go very badly for them. And, like, in their heads, they're making these rules to basically enforce Christian supremacy because they want Christianity to be in schools. But it could backfire. Like in Florida, Ron DeSantis just passed a law that went into effect this week that basically is saying, like, they need more school counselors and that chaplains, religious chaplains, can fill the roles of school counselors. And so now the Satanic Temple or Satanists are now, like, applying to fill these roles. And under the law, they are religious chaplains, so they can't be denied. And you know that people would lose their minds if they thought that a Satanist was counseling their children. But also there's a whole misunderstanding of what a Satanist and the Satanic Temple actually is. But that's another topic.
Yes. No, I agree.
But anyway, all that to say is there are fun ways to mess with them on these laws if you need to. I totally agree.
All right, April, go ahead. Chapter 8. This is all you.
Oh, yeah. Let me go back to my screenshot. Okay, so if you look at the first one there, it says empower American families. This is where the language that gets vague, where this used to say, support marriage between one man and one woman. It now says Republicans will promote a culture that values the sanctity of marriage, the blessings of childhood, the foundational role of families, and supports working parents. We will end policies that punish families.
Yep.
But that is still a much vaguer, more vague statement than has been the GOP platform in the past. And so a lot of more religious far-right people are upset that this is not a harder stance against gay marriage.
I also don't know what policies are punishing families. I get a great tax break for having children every year from the government. So I'm not sure what policies they're talking about that are, quote, punishing families, but I digress. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Who knows?
Do you have more on chapter 8?
Not on chapter 8.
Okay.
No.
We'll keep going then.
On chapter 9.
Sorry, this one's funny. Restore American beauty. Republicans will promote beauty and public architecture and preserve our national treasures. We will build cherished symbols of our nation and restore genuine conservation efforts. Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
That means stop tearing down Confederate statues.
Here we go. This is a good one.
Go ahead.
There's so many. No, go ahead. No, I'm saying I'm following you here. There's just
Where
so
are you?
many
You're
morsels.
At
Chapter 9.
Oh yeah, I am at chapter 9. I was going to do number 1 where it says we will hold accountable those who have misused the power of government to unjustly prosecute their political opponents. We will declassify government records, root out wrongdoers, and fire corrupt employees. So Trump has already said that he would pardon anyone who was convicted on January 6th at the Capitol.
Yep. People who broke the law. Aren't they the party of law and order? People who stormed our Capitol looking for Nancy Pelosi, they were chanting hang by Mike Pence. But these people who prosecuted those folks are just prosecuting their political opponents. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy that we're here. Like, this is the GOP platform. It's not even being hidden. They just totally embrace Trumpism. It's
a very Trump plan. You can hear Trump's language throughout this too.
Well, even look at their preamble for Chapter 9, which we just read from, the commitment. It's a little bit long, but it's worth reading. Republicans will offer a clear, precise, and USA-oriented plan to stop the radical left Democrats' weaponization of government and its assault on American liberty. We will restore government of, by, and for the people, ensuring accountability, protecting individual liberties. That's funny. And fixing our once very corrupt elections. I mean, they're embracing Trump's January 6th election denial propaganda. We commit to upholding the Constitution of the United States, appointing judges who respect the rule of law, and yes, like the Supreme Court justices who made up the rule that a president is immune from criminal prosecution if it's quote unquote an official action, something nowhere found in the Constitution. Anyway, in defending the rights of all Americans to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we will maintain the Supreme Court as it was always meant to be at 9 justices. We will not allow the Democrat Party to increase this number as they would like to do by 4, 6, 8, or 10, and even 12 justices. We will block them at every turn. So essentially what they're saying, friends, is this. There has been some talks in the Democratic Party to bring court reform to the Supreme Court, essentially adding more justices because of how unbalanced the court is now. And the RNC is saying, no, we're not going to allow it to happen, which makes sense because they have a court majority, as we all know. But yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's so evident what they're saying, right? It's so clear that these dog whistles all come down to protecting our power, to maintaining who the true Americans are, etc. It's crazy to me.
And go back down to, so number 3 here, it says Republicans will defend religious liberty.
Yes.
It says we are the defenders of the First Amendment rights to religious liberty. It protects the right not only to worship according to the dictates of conscience, but also to act in accordance with those beliefs, not just in places of worship, but in everyday life. Our ranks include men and women from every faith and tradition, and we respect the right of every American to follow his or her deeply held beliefs. To protect religious liberty, Republicans support a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias that will investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America. Okay, so notice how the first little sentence is talking about religious liberty, that people have different faiths and different traditions. And then it says that they are committed to protecting and fighting anti-Christian bias, which also in a 2023 Gallup poll, just by the way, 68% of Americans identify as Christian in some way, which would make an anti-Christian bias difficult to achieve. This is one thing that just irks me. And also I feel bad about it, that I need to repent, because I used to genuinely believe that Christians were persecuted in America. But really, it was just being held accountable. It's like, a man goes to a pride parade or, a pride event and has like, you're going to hell, you're an abomination, and is yelling at people. And if people get mad at him and say, hey, go away, stop being here, that man is now channeling that and saying, I'm being persecuted for my faith. No, You're being called out because you're being an asshole. Like, that's not you being persecuted for your faith. Am I allowed to cuss? Sorry, I just messed it up.
Well, you just did.
Sorry.
I love it. Fire it up, April. Keep going. This is great. You're on a roll.
No, but anyway, it just pisses me off because they feign persecution while actively persecuting everybody else.
I know.
Ugh.
I actually appreciate that in this statement they actually said the quiet part out loud. So now we know what they actually mean. They don't, when they say our ranks include men and women from every faith and tradition, and we respect the right of every American to follow his or her deeply held beliefs, they obviously mean the Christian ones. And not just the Christian ones. The conservative Christian ones, the ones who
not us,
align,
not our
not
deeply
us.
held Christian beliefs,
right? Yeah. I mean, my deeply held religious belief is that corporations should pay their fair share, we should have affordable health care, and that queer people exist and have a right to exist. But that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about this cultural conservative idea that it uses the language of Christian talk, like biblical and, Jesus and stuff, to mask their bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, etc. And they say it by admitting they will support a new federal task force. Okay, so again, the federal government is back in play, right? It's not about states' rights anymore. It's about the federal government making a task force to fight anti-Christian bias. Not anti-religious bias, anti-Christian bias. Gosh,
and really what that means is their right, to discriminate against
100%.
Against queer people.
100%.
Usually is what this means.
100%. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anything else in this you want to? I mean, we could be here for another 3 or 4 hours.
I know it's all a mess.
Where do they talk? Oh, this one I thought was just interesting. Modernize the military. Republicans will ensure our military is the most modern, lethal, and powerful force in the world. Like, wow, what a Christian ethic. Let's build the most deadly military in the history of the world. Where's the one about abortion? They mentioned it vaguely.
That's what I was going to... Yeah, it's like one sentence. Let me see.
Where is it? I could probably search for it. Is it late term?
Maybe Control F. Yeah, I think he says late term abortion. Or just like Control F abortion. I know. There's a sentence in there somewhere. I don't think I screenshotted it though. Hold on.
What is that? Short abortion.
I'm looking as well.
Oh, where is it? Are you looking at it? Oh, here it is. We will oppose. Oh, this is okay. This is the last one. Then we can wrap up.
Here it is.
Very important piece. We proudly, actually, April, do you want to read it, or you want me to read it? I've been talking.
Sure, I can read it. We proudly stand for families and life. We believe that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States guarantees that no person can be denied life or liberty without due process, and that the states are therefore free to pass laws protecting those rights. After 51 years, because of us, that power has been given to the states and to a vote of the people. We will oppose late-term abortion while supporting mothers and policies that advance parental care, access to birth control, and IVF fertility treatments. So this is also in direct response to, I think, Project 2025 that wants to, ban IVF.
Yep.
The Southern Baptists just declared IVF immoral at the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yep. Ali Stuckey
there's a
right.
The Republicans just blocked the Right to Contraceptive Act, which was supposed to give protections to women, because Project 2025 and a lot of conservatives do want to take away access to contraceptives, 100%. Including Mike Johnson, who they conflate the birth control pill with abortion, which it's not. But regardless, there is that push. So I think that is a direct response to try to give some distance to Project 2025, because I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to win out here. The people that put Trump there, that now want Trump to do more of their bidding, or Trump, who is nobody's, like, he's not going to be pushed over.
You're totally right. The fact that they came out in support of IVF is a big middle finger to like the hard abortion abolitionist movement that has been saying for a long time that we need to get rid of IVF. I mean, we've covered and we've showed videos of people like Joel Webbin saying we have to go to every CVS and just take all the birth control stuff off the shelves. We have to oppose IVF. And the GOP pretty much says, no, we actually support IVF. Now, this Monday, I'm dropping a conversation with one of the world's leading embryologists on IVF. His name is Dr. Michael West, and also with Dr. Jennifer Bird, who's a New Testament scholar, because they released a statement on IVF and what it actually is and what it actually isn't. So we're going to cover IVF in detail this upcoming Monday. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. That'd be helpful, so that way you don't miss out on it. But this is a big rift. Will it be enough for these people not to vote for Trump? I really don't know. Ultimately, I don't know. But yes, Christian nationalists like Ali Stuckey, Meg Basham, Samuel Say, that whole world, William Wolf, they're livid about Trump softening the language both on queer rights and on abortion.
Right. Because again, Trump's not a true believer. He doesn't.
Exactly.
I don't think he actually cares. I don't think he has a moral compass other than what gives him more money and more power.
100% does not
which
care.
That might be the one silver lining, is that he can't be controlled.
Right. Maybe.
That, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, it's hard to know because
honestly,
sorry to cut you off, but here's the thing. I mean, he lies so much. For all we know, he could be in favor of these policies, right? But just publicly, they want to say, no, we support IVF, we support yada, yada, yada. When behind the scenes, they're like, yeah, we'll work with people like, Doug Wilson or William Wolf, who want to get those things, erased from cultures, from access to those things, So I just don't know. I don't trust Trump at all. I don't put it past him either way.
No, I don't. And I think we are still in a very scary election, and I am definitely not trying to downplay that by any stretch of the means, because Project 2025 is a very real threat.
Yes.
Whether Trump denies it or not, because even in that GOP plan, even though they soften language on abortion and gay marriage, it's still a very scary plan, and a lot of people will lose rights if that's enacted.
Yes. I agree. And I am actually starting pre-production on a video diving deep into Project 2025, or at least somewhat deep. So people have asked me for that for a long time now. It is difficult when you make content all the time to spend a couple hours or even a few days to really deep dive something, but I'm going to make the time to do a piece on that because we have to really cover what's going on. But I agree with you, April. I mean, either way, I don't trust Trump. I don't trust the GOP. I don't trust these people that are saying things like, oh yeah, IVF is great, when in Alabama, Supreme Court justices are saying that no, embryos from IVF are children, even though they are actually scientifically not. And again, we'll explain more of that on Monday. So I just think that there's a very big push in these spaces, and they're motivated, as we saw with Josh Hawley saying, I embrace Christian nationalism, to make America the most conservative Christian nation it's ever been, at the expense and rights of all of our neighbors who are not like them. It's terrifying.
They're highly motivated because in their minds it's a holy war. They're on a holy quest to sanctify the nation, which is very eerily similar to, like, a lot of the language that we hear from current Christian nationalists today is very similar to what Margaret Atwood wrote in The Handmaid's Tale with the commanders and all of that, which should remain a piece of fiction.
Yeah.
Just
I think the last thing I'll say on this, and I think, I'm not sure about you, April, I'm too tired to do anything else, tweets of the week or whatever. I mean, we can if you want, but we're almost 2 hours
it's been a long, we did a deep dive and we didn't even go as deep as we could have.
I know, we could have spent more time. Hey, friends, by the way, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, almost 2 hours in, that means the world. We'd love your thoughts, we'd love your comments. We read all the comments, we really do. We like them. If you're listening to this on audio, we'd love your thoughts via email, so please feel free. And make sure to like this video. It helps the algorithm of YouTube push it out to more people, which helps everyone, hopefully. Last thought on this, just as a food for thought for the audience and for you. I was talking to someone, I'm not going to say who, but they're very influential and they're very powerful in the world of like progressive Christian politics and stuff. Been around for a long time. And he told me he was talking to one of his theologian friends in Germany who has a doctorate in history. And what he said to him was, he said, so-and-so, I'm not sure if people in America realize the similarities to the 1930s elections in Germany and what's happening in America. Now, obviously, there are differences too. It's not the same thing. It's not one for one, but there are a lot of similarities to how people came into power in the 1930s and what that led to over the next decade and what we're up against now regarding the ideology. That should freak us out.
Can I say a very specific similarity?
Yes, you can.
That I actually have pulled up here. Hold on.
Yes.
Let me get it. The Enabling Act of 1933. Did you read about this?
No.
Okay, so in 1933, Germany enacted the Enabling Act, which basically gave the chancellor, they had the right to pass and enforce laws without checks and balances. Very similarly to the Supreme Court ruling that just gave the president immunity without checks and balances. So that happened in 1933 in Germany, and 6 months later, they were a one-party state, which that act basically laid the groundwork for the totalitarian regime that that Hitler had.
People
just saying, like, the yeah. Well, I was just gonna say things led up. Like, and I saw a tweet too that was like, if you wonder, we talk about Hitler and the atrocious, terrible acts that he did, and we talk about the wars, and I think most people focus on that, and it was terrible. But like, things led to that. That didn't just happen overnight. You had Christian nationalism in Germany was a thing that helped pave the way for Hitler's reign.
100%. And I know what's it called? Godwin's law, when like you always appeal to like, the worst thing ever, in this case, Hitler. I know people might dismiss us for saying that, but there's a reason why a lot of historians are saying this stuff, because when you do look into some of the history and you see what was happening politically before the rise of the Nazi Party, there are a lot of similarities. And there's a lot of the propaganda that we saw in the early rise of the Nazi Party, it's the same kind of propaganda we see now. Even the rhetoric that we just witnessed in that document of we have to defeat the radical left or Marxism or destroy the Democratic Party, that kind of idea, which, by the way, fuels right-wing media all day. It's a stark comparison to even Joe Biden, who many times has said from the pulpit, or so to speak, or from his platform, we want to work together. We want to find bipartisan support. This bill I submitted has bipartisan support. I'm not saying that Democrats are God's chosen people. Of course not. Let's not equate the two. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that you find a lot of the war language and a lot of the demon language and evil language, and we have to take back the country language, and we have to destroy the left language from the right. You don't see nearly as much. What you hear from people in more democratic spaces is we have to defeat fascism. We have to destroy the far right movement that's taking over the RNC. It's a very different kind of conversation. And yes, it absolutely does freak me out that this kind of language has become more and more normalized over the past decade from the right-wing world. Like, we just expect them to say these democrats, right? You make parodies about this stuff because
demon rats,
demon rats, right? Because of how normalized it is. That rhetoric, that dehumanization, does give way to pretty deadly fruit, whether it's in 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years from now, if it's not checked. That is the path that we're on when we start seeing other people in the country as less than human, and how they're the problem for every ill in the country. That leads somewhere.
Well, because once you dehumanize an entire group of people, then you can justify any sort of violence against them, 100%. And you don't feel a normal, moral, humane compass about it, because in your minds they've been demonized and dehumanized. Because a lot of people ask too, like, how could Germany have let someone like Hitler come into power? The thing is, he didn't come into power as the evil version of himself that we know now in the history books. It didn't 100%. Start that way. And 100%. If you want to look at how, if you want to wonder how that happened, I think you can look and see it's happening now. People are clearly blindly looking away from very clear red flags.
There is a 6-part series on Netflix about the rise of the Hitler regime that is worth watching every minute. And one of the big takeaways for me was how the anti-Semitism, it wasn't like Hitler for decades had this massive plan to start concentration camps. It developed slowly over time, first by just disparaging foreigners, then by disparaging Jewish people, and then by just year after year, a little farther in, tolerating violence towards Jewish people. It took time for Hitler and for the Nazi Party to get from really being seen as a fringe on the outskirts party of German politics to taking over and then essentially erecting concentration camps, committing one of the greatest mass genocides in human history. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's what concerns me. Is that, and again, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that if Trump gets power, he's going to commit some kind of mass genocide to the level of what Hitler did. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is that the same political ideology and the same rhetoric that animates the world of MAGA and Trumpism is eerily similar. It echoes in so many ways the same propaganda and ideology of the Nazi Party. That should give us serious pause for concern.
Right. And I will say one major difference between Hitler and Trump is Hitler, I think, really believed what he was doing in his ideology.
Right.
Trump,
that's true,
does not.
Right.
If silver lining, I guess.
Right. Yes. on that happy good news note,
Yeah.
friends, listen, happy Friday. I don't know. I mean, thank you for tuning in.
It's a Friday.
Yeah, it's a Friday. It's Friday. I don't know. I appreciate you being here and listening to this conversation. Again, would love your thoughts in the comments, what you think about our assessment of everything going on. It means a lot to have you. And we will talk to you all next Friday for another weekly recap. So, see ya.
Yeah. Have a good week.
Woo, what a doozy. 2 hours.